When you think of skyrocketing brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, it's easy to credit their success to great products, sleek branding, and brilliant marketing. But here's the overlooked secret. The real magic lies in the engine behind the scenes, the business powering their business. For millions of brands, that engine is Shopify, making selling seamless for them and shopping effortless for us. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Aloe Yoga uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/retail, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/retail to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/retail.
Just a quick heads up, if this is the first time joining us, this is part 2 of a 2-part story, so you'll want to go back and listen to part 1 first. Blood flowing freely. Those chilling words echoed in Cindy's mind. But the terror didn't stop there. Weeks later, on July 27th, Cindy woke to another horrifying discovery left on her front porch. A cosmetics container. But inside, it wasn't makeup. It was rotting, putrefied meat. She didn't know it yet, but this marked the beginning of another escalation, one that would push the boundaries of fear even further. I'm Sarah Powell, and this is Obscurata, because some stories have no ending. Then the fire started. On August the 5th, Cindy called the police, reporting a fire in her home. When authorities arrived, they found only scattered, charred pieces of newspaper. The next day, another fire. Then August the 21st. At 4:45 a.m, flames erupted again, this time in the basement. When firefighters arrived, Cindy was already outside, locked in an argument with Ozzy Caban. She told him she had taken her dog for a walk at 3:15 a.m, and when she returned, the fire was already raging. Police inspected the scene. The bathroom window was slightly open, but the soot and dust on the sill were undisturbed. No signs that anyone had entered or exited. They searched the bathroom. Among the charred debris, they found remnants of newspaper, burnt and blackened. Later, one of the detectives investigating the fire made a chilling statement. I believe Cindy started the fire herself. By the fall of 1985, Cindy's case had drawn scepticism from within the RCMP. Carol Halliday, an officer who had responded to the August 21st fire, was convinced Cindy was orchestrating the attacks herself. She believed the male officers assigned her a case had been manipulated, conned by the histrionics of a pretty woman. Halliday called in Dr. Anthony Marcus, a psychologist, to review Cindy's case files and interview her. After analysing the records, Marcus proposed a chilling theory. Cindy might be suffering from dissociative identity disorder, the result of an early childhood trauma. But when he spoke to Cindy, he never asked her about her past. Then, on December the 1st, Cindy moved again, A new house in Richmond, a fresh start. 10 days later, she was found in a ditch. It was around 6 p.m. when passing motorists spotted her, half conscious, nearly 6 kilometres from her home, near the University of British Columbia campus. She was disorientated, suffering from hypothermia. She had on a single glove and men's work boots, and once again, a nylon stocking had been pulled tight around her neck. At the hospital, doctors suspected she'd been drugged, some kind of tranquilizer, but they couldn't confirm it. She had bruises, small cuts on her body, but Cindy had no memory of what had happened. She remembered going to lunch that day, stopping at a pharmacy, and then nothing. She was slipping into despair. The police didn't believe her. The attacks weren't stopping. That Christmas, she left Canada, flying to Germany to visit her brother, Roger. When she returned in early 1986, she made a decision. She would no longer carry the name of the man she once loved, the man she now feared. Cindy Makepeace became Cindy James. Her friends tried to comfort her. Agnes Woodcock and her husband Tom sometimes spent the night at Cindy's house, hoping their presence would make her feel safe. Then, April 16th, Cindy woke them in the night. She'd heard something, a noise in the house. When they checked the basement, flames were already licking the walls. The phone lines were dead. Tom ran outside, desperate to find a neighbour who could call for help. But as he stepped onto the street, he saw him, a man, just standing there, watching. Tom moved toward him, ready to confront whoever he was, but the figure turned and bolted, vanishing into the dark. Cindy couldn't stay in the house. She stayed with the Woodcocks for several days, but she barely ate. She spoke of death, of how she no longer had a reason to live. Her longtime psychiatrist, Dr. Alan Connolly, had always believed her, but now he was terrified, not of the stalker, of Cindy herself. He had her committed. First, St. Paul's Hospital, where she spent 2 weeks under psychiatric care. Then, Riverview Hospital for further evaluation. Her assessment was unsettling. At first, she was resistant, barely speaking, offering only one-word answers. Then, her mood shifted. She became more open, more willing to talk, but only on her own terms. When discussing the attacks, she would look away, cover her eyes, and break down crying. She asked the doctors over and over again, did her responses make her sound crazy? She wasn't. Her IQ was well above average, but the report noted her unpredictability, her mood swings, fluctuating between pessimism and almost desperate friendliness. After 10 weeks, she was released. Not long after, Cindy confided in her father. She told him she'd been withholding information. She knew who was behind the attacks, but she wouldn't say the name. By August 1987, Cindy was trying to rebuild her life. She took a job as a nurse at Richmond General Hospital, a routine, a purpose, a way forward. But the terror wasn't finished with her yet. On August the 28th, her home alarm blared in the night. A window in the back had been shattered. 3 days later, she noticed something strange. Someone had loosened the light bulbs on her front porch. The small, deliberate acts continued. A week later, she reported that someone had used a glass cutter to carve a perfect hole in the basement door window. Then, in February 1988, another escalation. A window had been smashed, but whoever had done it had first secured the glass with electrical tape, a method used to control the breakage to minimise sound. Somewhere, someone was watching and waiting. Then, October the 11th, something new. Not Cindy this time, but Roy Makepeace. 2 messages left on his home answering machine. The first, a rasping voice. Cindy, dead meat soon. The second was worse. More smack, more downers, another grand after we waste the cut. No more deal. Makepeace didn't go to the police. He didn't trust them. Instead, he handed the tapes to his attorney. If they were watching him, if they thought he was behind all of it, he wanted proof in his hands. 15 days later, Cindy was found in a garage. She was nude from the waist down, hog-tied, a black nylon stocking wrapped around her throat. The RCMP were running out of answers. They brought in an expert, Robert Chisnell, a mountain climber and knot specialist. If Cindy had staged the scene herself, the evidence would be in the bindings. After analysing the knots, Chisnell came to one conclusion. It was highly unlikely Cindy had tied them herself. By now, there were more questions than answers. By January 1989, Cindy had taken another step to feel safe. She offered the basement unit of her house to a tenant, Richard Johnson, a life insurance salesman from whom she had purchased a policy. She told him she felt safer with someone else in the house. It didn't stop the threats. On April the 8th, a security guard at Richmond General Hospital found a message left behind. A note, its letters cut and pasted from magazines. Soon, Cindy. Then another message, not on paper this time, but scrawled into the dew on her windshield. Sleep well. She wasn't sleeping well. On April the 29th, she reported another attempted break-in. The RCMP brought in scent hounds, hoping to pick up a trail. But the dogs found nothing. Then, on May the 10th, it happened again. This time, the scent hounds tracked something, an unfamiliar scent leading over the backyard fence. The intruder had been there, close, and Cindy was running out of time. 7 years. That's how long Cindy had been living in fear. 7 years of threats, break-ins, mutilated animals, fires and attacks. 7 years of reporting every violation, every whisper in the dark, every nylon stocking cinched around her throat. And yet, after all that time, after an estimated $1 to $1.5 million in RCMP resources, there was still no concrete evidence, no fingerprints, no clear suspects, no witness who had seen the perpetrator, outside of Cindy herself. The police had reached their own conclusion. She was doing it to herself. They believed she was fabricating the entire ordeal, staging each crime scene, crafting an elaborate, years-long illusion of victimhood. A deception so intricate, so persistent, that it had drained RCMP resources dry. Cindy knew what they thought of her. She was exhausted, furious. The very people who were supposed to protect her now viewed her as the villain of her own story. All except one, Detective Jerry Anderson. She had filed complaints against the RCMP, citing their refusal to take her seriously. But in those complaints, she singled out Anderson, one name, among a sea of dismissals. Quote from Cindy James, the horrifying story of what really happened to her, morbid curiosity. For his patience, unfailing professional conduct, and his exemplary investigation of this case, he is the only member of the RCMP I feel I can trust and be comfortable with. But trust wasn't enough. The stalker, the police, the world, none of them had stopped coming for Cindy. And soon, time would run out. May 25th, 1989. It was an ordinary day. At 4 p.m, Cindy picked up her paycheck from Richmond General Hospital. She chatted with a co-worker who later recalled that Cindy had seemed happy, lighter than usual. She even mentioned that, for the first time in weeks, nothing strange had happened. That evening, she was seen at Safeway Supermarket, then at the Bank of Montreal, in Blundell Shopping Centre. A bank patron stood behind her in line at the ATM, watching as she deposited her cheque. The timestamp read 7:59 p.m. Cindy had plans that night. A security company was scheduled to install an infrared detection system in her home, another attempt to feel safe, and the Woodcocks, Agnes and Tom, were supposed to come over for bridge and stay the night. But by 10 p.m, Cindy hadn't called. The Woodcocks drove to her house. The lights were off, the doors were locked, her car gone. They knocked on the basement tenant's door. Richard Johnston answered, telling them that Cindy had mentioned earlier that she was going shopping. Something felt wrong. They got back in the car and drove past Blundell Shopping Centre, the place Cindy went most often. That's when they saw it. Cindy's Chevrolet Citation, abandoned in the parking lot. They didn't waste time. They went straight to the Richmond RCMP station and filed a missing persons report. The police, knowing Cindy's history, sent out a patrol car that same night. What they found was unsettling. Inside her car, blood smeared on the driver's side door, groceries left untouched, a wrapped birthday gift meant for her friend's young son. Beneath the car, the contents of Cindy's wallet scattered on the pavement. Back at her home, nothing was disturbed. The house was clean, meticulous. The plants well cared for, watered. But Cindy was gone. The search began. The Canadian Coast Guard combed the surrounding rivers, the Gulf of Georgia, anywhere she could have gone. But there was no sign of her. Then a phone call. Days after Cindy vanished, her tenant, Richard Johnston, received a call at his office. The man on the other end claimed to be Cindy's father. He wanted to know about her life insurance policy. Johnston's secretary told him the details couldn't be given over the phone. He would need to come in person. But when the police questioned Cindy's father, he was adamant he had never made that call. June the 8th, 1989. The body was found by accident. Gordon Starchuk, a municipal paving worker, had been going about his routine when he stumbled upon something awful. Cindy was there, in the backyard of an abandoned house at 8111 Blundell Road, Richmond. She was curled in a fetal position, hogtied with rope. A black nylon stocking pulled tight around her throat. One leg lay beneath a tangle of blackberry bushes, her coat discarded nearby. The location itself was strange. The house sat along a busy street, right near an intersection, where pedestrians passed by every day. It wasn't hidden, it wasn't buried. And then there was the graffiti. On the exterior fuel tank of the house, in jagged orange spray paint, "Some bitch died here." A thick orange line ran from the fuel tank, stretching across the ground. It stopped at Cindy's body, encircling her in a crude, deliberate shape. Inside the abandoned house, another message, scrawled in the same paint: "Devil." When pathologist Sheila Carlisle examined Cindy's body, she found something horrifying. Her hands had been bound so tightly that one finger had scratched another all the way down to the bone. There was a pinprick on her inner right elbow, a needle mark. Forensic entomologist Dr. Gail Anderson examined the decomposition and estimated that Cindy could have died as early as June 2nd, 6 days before she was found. However, her findings did not conclusively prove that Cindy had died at the exact location where her body was discovered. The toxicology report painted a grim picture. She had overdosed, not just on one drug, but a cocktail: morphine, diazepam, flurazepam. Her bloodstream carried 10 times the lethal dose of morphine. The pharmacologist who examined the case was baffled. There was no way to determine how the morphine had entered her system. Traces were found in her stomach, meaning she could have swallowed it, but the toxicologist wasn't convinced. That level of morphine would have knocked her unconscious within minutes. If it had been injected, she would have been dead within hours, and yet the body was found days later. Authorities settled on their theory quickly. Cindy had taken her own life, or, at the very least, her death had been an accident. The tabloids were quick to follow suit. After all, the official line had been that Cindy was behind her own torment, that she had staged the stalking, the threats, the break-ins, that she was just the tragic end of a woman unravelling under the weight of her own delusions. But not everyone believed it. Ozzy Caban, Cindy's private investigator, wasn't satisfied. 2 days after her body was found, he went to the morgue to see for himself. What he saw made him question everything. Lividity, the way the blood settles in a body after death, told him something was wrong. The pooling of blood was on Cindy's left side, but when they found her, she was lying on her right side. If she had died where they found her, the lividity should have matched. Instead, it suggested something else. Cindy had died somewhere else and had been moved. Cindy's memorial was held on June the 14th, just 2 days after what would have been her 45th birthday. The police were there, but not to mourn. They had set up hidden cameras, capturing the faces and license plates of everyone in attendance. One person was notably absent: Roy Makepeace. The summer after Cindy was found dead, the house where her body had been discovered was demolished. It was gone, just like Cindy. Spring 1990, the inquest. A year after Cindy vanished, the case was still a tangle of contradictions. The official ruling said suicide. The evidence said otherwise. And the public? They weren't sure what to believe, so an inquest was called. It took place in Burnaby, 5 jurors, over 80 witnesses. What was meant to last 3 weeks stretched into 40 days, making it the longest and most expensive in British Columbia's history. The testimony. The phone messages left on Roy Makepeace's answering machine were played in court, their hoarse, whispering threats filling the room. Then Makepeace himself took the stand. His accusations were brutal. He pointed the finger not at an unknown stalker, but at Cindy's own family. He claimed her father had physically abused her as a child, that one of her brothers had molested her, that the police had been trying to frame him from the very beginning. Then, another revelation. After Cindy's death, her parents had found a hoard of prescription medications in her home: sedatives, antipsychotics, drugs prescribed by her psychiatrist over the years. Instead of turning them over to investigators, they flushed them down the toilet. Her sister Melanie found something else: a glass cutter in Cindy's purse, a medical syringe kit in her bedroom, a urinary catheter saline solution. It painted a troubled picture, either of a woman preparing for self-inflicted harm, or of someone stocking up on medical tools for reasons no one could understand. Then came the footage, grainy, stark, and deeply disturbing. The jury was shown images of Cindy's body as it had been found, her corpse already decomposing in the weeds behind the abandoned house. The psychiatrists and psychologists who had treated her over the years took the stand. Dr. Paul Termanson testified that he believed Cindy suffered from hysterical personality disorder. Dr. Wesley Friesen, her longtime psychiatrist, disagreed. He believed she had borderline personality disorder with elements of post-traumatic stress disorder. By Friesen's account, Cindy had harboured a tremendous amount of rage toward her father, and though she had never explicitly stated it, Friesen believed there was a strong likelihood that she had been sexually abused by him as a child. But that was speculation. There was no confirmation, only shadows of a past Cindy had never put into words. One of the most critical questions of the inquest was whether Cindy could have physically bound herself the way she had been found. The RCMP had hired knot expert Robert Chisnell to analyse the bindings on Cindy's body. On the stand, he performed a demonstration. Using the same length of nylon, Chisnell showed the court how it was possible for Cindy to have tied herself up in under 3 minutes. Just enough time before the drugs would have rendered her unconscious. It was a compelling theory, but was it proof? The verdict. On May the 25th, 1990, exactly 1 year after Cindy had disappeared, the inquest reached its final decision. After 40 days of testimony, hours of analysis, and thousands of dollars spent, the jury's conclusion was this: they could not determine whether Cindy's death had been suicide, homicide, or accident. Instead, the final ruling stated she had died of an unknown event. And with that, the case was closed. No answers, no justice, just silence.
When you think of skyrocketing brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, it's easy to credit their success to great products, sleek branding, and brilliant marketing. But here's the overlooked secret. The real magic lies in the engine behind the scenes, the business powering their business. For millions of brands, that engine is Shopify, making selling seamless for them and shopping effortless for us. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Aloe Yoga uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/retail, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/retail to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/retail.
So I'm going to go through a few sort of theories and thoughts that other people have had about Cindy and the case. There is a lot of talk about there The needle that had injected Cindy with the lethal dose of morphine was not found at the scene and never found. Another peculiar aspect of the case was the state of her bindings, the complex knots tying her hands and feet. There were also loads of talk about police cover-ups, whether it was actually a member of the police service who was doing it. Obviously, Roy Makepeace. Just so many theories that you can really go down a rabbit hole. But ultimately, Cindy's death remains a mystery. And while these theories do persist, they remain unproven. And without new evidence, the truth of what really happened to Cindy James may never be known. And that's the end of this episode. It's been a long one. Sorry if my voice went a bit funny. It's really difficult because I'm not voice trained either to speak for such a long time. Like I can talk in normal conversation for a very long time. But when it comes to reading a story, it's different vocal cords. And so if it did go a bit, woo, forgive me. Well, that is it for this Cindy James story. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a review. That would be fantastic. Also, come and join us on that Facebook group, which is called Obscurata Discussed. And we can go over some of these theories and have a chin wag over a cup of coffee. I'll catch you next time.